distraction during?
Hi, everybody. It's Nina here. Thank you so much for joining me and Malini, and I'm going to patch her in a second here as soon as everybody sort of gathers and joins us. Let me see if I can find her. Okay. Where's my girl, Malini? Okay, keep an eye out here for her. But yeah, I wanted to thank you guys again for joining us. I think it's super important that the conversation keeps going. We have seen a huge sort of movement, a massive uprising, if you will, over the last month or so. And it's not enough to just do it once. We have to keep the conversation going and keep educating ourselves. So I thought it was a great opportunity to have a conversation with some of my friends and new friends. See if I can find her. Where? There she is. Uh-oh. It says unable to join. Why does it say that? Thank you for being patient with me, you guys. There we go. All right, patching her in. Here we go.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Nina. It's going good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. You look great. I like the mask. I feel like I should have my mask on too. I'm at my house though, so maybe I'm good.
You're fine. I'm on my way to a action in New York, so.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
She never stops. This woman never stops. She's always working for the cause. Okay, so we have a lot of people joining right now, a lot of eyeballs, which is really, really, really great. I'm so happy that everybody is open to expanding their views and learning. And I have so many questions for you, but it's not more than anything, I think it's so important to mention that it's not my voice that's important here, but I have a bunch of questions, and I'm hoping that through my questions, you can educate not only me, but everybody who is here on the live right now wants to learn more about what we can do and how we can help support you. So let me first start by introducing you. This is Malini. Let me make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yep, correct.
Nailed it. Okay. And she works with Working Families Party. It's WFP. And why don't you tell us what you guys do?
Yeah. So the Working Families Party, WFP, is a multiracial political home for us to find, recruit progressives who are running on anti-racist issues, who are running for the people, who are running for healthcare, education, and bread and butter issues that so many people have ignored in this country for quite some time, which is why we're seeing such uprisings and such a, outrage of this pandemic, of the way that it was handled. And so we're always looking to put the best people on the ballot. And we are a political home for movement, social movements, community organizations to come together and to fight for those issues. So we also support during movements back from Occupy Wall Street, where folks were talking about the housing crisis, to right now where everyone is talking about Black Lives Matter, defunding the police, a lot of these issues. We also work to support. So that's why I'm going and dropping off a bag of supplies to an occupation right now in New York, because we want to just not only be there when folks run for office, but we want to be there supporting movements all the time.
That's amazing. Now, you mentioned something about defund the police. I'm sure a lot of people, we see it. There's billboards everywhere. That's all over Instagram. Everyone's posting about it. Can you give us a little insight and sort of tell us exactly what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the last 20 years, to really find out about the history of the police, and we could talk about this all day, but I'll just say one little thing, is that a lot of folks don't know that modern day policing, as we see it right now, originated out of the slave patrols. So when enslaved Africans were escaping slavery, there were slave patrols that fought, chased folks down and brought them back to their plantation. So really, cracking down on abolition. And that was actually a lot of the structures that existed then are the foundations of how we've had policing here. So I think that that's really important to note, because it's so important to kind of hear that that's the origins of it. So when we say defunding police, what do we mean? Now, first of all, it does not mean that we do not want public, just make sure.
Say that one more time. We don't want what?
Am I back?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want that we want public safety. A lot of people think that, they just don't want anything, that they don't want any terms of public safety. And everyone is saying that we do want public safety. The reason why we're saying defund, because the last 20 years, police budgets have ballooned to the point where cities are putting more money into policing than they are to services like community programs for youth in the summer, like education. So for instance, the city that I live in New York, the police department's budget is $6 billion.
Whoa.
$6 billion. And so for every dollar that they give to the police, they're only giving 12 cents of that dollar to housing and homeless services. They're only giving 50 cents to that dollar to education. So what we're saying is that we want to defund, like in New York, our demand is $1 billion. That's still going to leave the NYPD with $5 billion, which is a lot of money. And we want that money to go into our programs. So to go into education programs, to go into housing, to go into community services, because when you look at a lot of neighborhoods, the safest neighborhoods are the ones that have great education, great youth service programs, good housing, affordable housing. Like those are the safest communities. So what we're just saying is that we want the money redirected from the over balloon budgets into our actual community services.
Which seems fair to me. I mean, that's a lot of money, and if it was distributed more evenly, that's wow. I did not know that. Okay, so how can people help to defund the police? Like, what can people be doing right now?
Yeah, so right now, city budgets are happening across the country, which means they're preparing to get to their budget to be implemented for 2021, next fiscal year, as you call it when you do budget seasons. And so right now, people can be calling, you can be calling your own city council people and saying, hey, I hear, LA already, for those of you who are in LA, defunded by $100 million. I think that they still want cops out of schools out there. Here in New York, we have a week till the budget is due. And so we're asking folks to call their city council folks, to call the mayor and the speaker here in New York. And across the country, all you can do is you can just email, you go to the website of your city council and you email your representatives and email your mayor, because those are the folks who actually can control the budgets. And you can also, and I'll put it here too, I don't know if you could, NYPD. If you want to specifically do it in New York, you can text defund NYPD to 30403. And I'll put
it again. So defund NYPD, you text that to 30403. Okay, great. And we can, I'm going to, Nilan, sorry, I keep saying your name wrong. Say it again.
Malini. Yeah.
Nalini. So Nalini has taken over my Instagram. After we log out here, I will give it all up to Nalini. And so we're going to put it in my stories with a swipe up so that you guys can easily reach out to your representatives and make it painless, so that it's not like it takes a few minutes. It's not just take up that much time every day. Like it takes longer to probably use the restroom or pour yourself a glass of water. So don't make any excuses, people. We need you. Okay. And then why don't you educate us a little bit on what's going on? I know that a lot of people were posting about what was happening in Kentucky, and I know we talked about it a little bit. So why don't you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so this has been happening all over the South. So we're still in primary season, for those of you who don't know. Even though the presidential primary in the Democratic Party is over in terms of the votes have been cast. I mean, Joe Biden has enough votes to be the presumptive nominee, but there are so many races across the country, from district attorneys races to U.S. Senate races. and congressional races and state legislative races still happening. Like, there are still primaries. And we saw a couple weeks ago in Georgia the massive amount of lines due to voter suppression. So voter suppression, just for folks who don't know, I'll do like a basic what it is when people, state governments and governments, because state governments control their elections, make it harder to vote.
Sorry, you're cutting out just a little bit. If you could just hold for 1 second, maybe you're going through a zone that's bad. Sorry, we're losing you just a little bit. I might need you to go back a little bit when I get better reception. Give me 1 second. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, you cut out when you were starting to describe what voter suppression was. So kind of at the beginning.
Totally.
Start again.
Yeah, so voter suppression is when it makes it harder, the state government makes it harder for you to vote. So whether it's that they cut polling places, that's a key thing of voter suppression, especially in Black and brown communities.
Cut meaning they close the doors?
They cut them. So what happened yesterday in Kentucky is that Kentucky usually has, in 2018, it had 3,200 polling places open. Yesterday, they said they were only going to have 200 open. So that's cutting 3,000 polling locations across the state of Kentucky. There was one polling place for over 600,000 people. Wow. So especially during a time of a pandemic where we need to have social distancing in line, right? You can't be on top of each other. That makes it really hard to maintain safety and for people to go vote, especially elderly folks who are, who have autoimmune problems in this pandemic right now, who can't go outside, who have to be very, very careful of the steps that they take. So closing down 3,000 in the name of the pandemic was actually—
it deters a lot of people from their ability to go. Yeah. Yep. Wow.
And even last night, what happened in Kentucky was that at 6 o'clock, they closed. So now the rule is federally, if you are in line to vote, even if the polls close, you are still allowed to vote. You are legally, if you are in line before that 6 o'clock or in 9 o'clock, depending on what state you're in, hits, whatever time the deadline is, if you are in line, you are still legally able to vote. Last night, they tried to close the doors, even though it was illegal on everybody. And Charles Booker, who's running for the campaign, the Charles Booker campaign, he's running for U.S. Senate in Kentucky. We don't know if he's won. It was a primary. If he does win, he'll be up against Mitch McConnell, everyone's favorite. And he filed an injunction. The campaign filed an injunction, and they had to open their doors. So we did get. It was great.
A huge win. Yeah.
It was a huge win. I was very surprised because usually injunctions don't work that well, but it's a huge win. But it's going to still take us another week to find out, or a couple of days to find out where, how the races went, because they tried to stop it and because it was really late before folks were able to vote.
Wow. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. It's crazy that after everything that's gone on over the last month, that's still something that we're met with that kind of resistance and blatant disrespect. It's pretty gnarly. But social media is a wonderful, horrible, but also a wonderful thing in that way. I don't think there's a single person who didn't see what was happening, and it keeps that conversation going and makes sure that people sort of their voices are being heard. And obviously it did something, it impacted it. So hopefully it continues to do that.
Yeah, just want to shout out to folks who don't know Black Voters Matter, who had put the call out for all eyes on Kentucky and making sure, and so people were really watching Kentucky. So yes, the power of social media, even though sometimes it makes me cringe, is really great. And it was amazing that people were actually paying attention from across the country. So everyone who paid attention, thank you, and shout outs to Black Voters Matter.
Yeah, there we go. And then what about, I think some people might not know, I posted about it, you posted about it, but I'm sure you have some exciting news that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so it was amazing in New York. It looks like we as the Working Families Party and a lot of progressives swept almost all of our races up and down the ballot, including getting Jamal Bowman, who is a principal, spent years as a public school teacher and a principal at a high school that had done so much work for education funding in the state of New York, be a longtime incumbent. This was really huge because the incumbent actually said during the pandemic that the only reason he was making visits was because he was being primaried. So not because Westchester, his county, was the first, place that got really impacted in New York State by coronavirus, but it was because he had a primary challenge. So we're super excited. I'm so pumped for Jamal to join the squad and for Jamal to be to win as somebody who has been a victim of police brutality, as somebody who understands what it's like to put more money into education and what that invest divest looks like. It's just phenomenal that he was able to be true to himself and care about the issues and win.
That's
so yay,
amazing.
Jamal Bowman.
Congratulations. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And it's one step in the right direction for sure. He'll be able to be on the front lines and actually do something about it and have a voice that has the experience. I'd love that. That's great. Congrats. Your work is paying off.
We're trying.
It's paying off. But I'm sure you couldn't do it alone. And I'm sure there's a lot of people. Like, can anybody who's watching this live right now help support you guys in any way aside from the texting, the code that we talked about? What else can people do to help you guys directly?
Absolutely. So we'll put the join link later on your stories. Oh, you got me now?
Got you. Yeah.
So we'll put the join link later on, but we're going to need all the help we can get. It's 2020. It's a big election year, and we have so many more races coming down the pike. And we are also going to be launching, give you all a preview, and I'll send it to you, Nina, when it's actually officially launched so you can share it. But we're going to be launching a justice fund. That's what I'll say for right now, but it's going to be a fund and a volunteer operation to help down ballot candidates who are taking stances around police brutality, who support a set of issues around it. And I'm really, really excited for it. And it's coming down the end of this week, early next week.
I was going to say, when should we be expecting that? Okay,
yeah,
great.
Either this Friday or Monday. Yeah.
Okay, good. That's exciting. Yeah, a lot of good things happening. Because it's true. I mean, we're in June right now. We're almost in July. And it's just the beginning. How do you think this is going to affect things going forward? Because November is around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we all have to kind of realize for those folks who are living in the United States is the other thing that's going to happen is in August, all of the unemployment, all of the extensions that we got for coronavirus, all of the kind of moratoriums on student debt, like people have not had to pay that stuff and are going to have to start paying in August. So, and also the rent, all the rent freezes are done then. And so we're really going to be prepared in a month when folks are really feeling the economic. I mean, people have been feeling the economic crisis. Folks who are not working, a lot of gig workers, actors, actresses, theater, right? There's been so many people that can't go back to business as usual until we find safe ways or until there's a cure. And so it's really hurting people's pockets. But in August, it'll be really a ripe time for that. And so, our kind of theory and what we're looking forward to is having a space where people can come to us and share their experiences in August, September, but also that we have one of the biggest grassroots operations out there, because we're going to need that to win in November. The movement for Black Lives, has called for Trump to resign. If he doesn't by then, I think that a lot of us are prepared to kick him out. And we do that by the power of grassroots organizing, talking to our neighbors, talking to our friends about what kind of future do we want, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to like the Democrat. That doesn't mean that you have to, but the reality is I think everybody can agree that this administration has not been really doing right by the people. and endangering us. And so we're ready to do everything in our power to take our country back. And yeah, and again, you can text WFP to 30403 to get involved generally across the country, no matter where you are on all of our efforts.
Yeah, because every single person matters. Every single vote matters.
Yep.
And whatever your opinion is, I mean, hopefully it's
good.
what we all want, but like whatever your opinion is, whatever you want to vote for, you need to get out there and actually do it. I hope that everyone is really paying attention and listening to that, and really paying attention to educate themselves and find out like what politician, what representative is aligned with your interests. And it seems as though the interests right now are not being met with what we want, and we need to do something to change that. So please, everybody, get out there and register and educate yourselves, and and follow Malini, please. Please.
No, thank you, everybody. I mean, this is, it really just takes all of us building together and being out there. And for everybody who's like been able to go out and go on a march or whatever you've been able to do, thank you. Whether you've posted, whether you've shared, thank you. It just means the world, because so many people are out. And I think that I actually believe that we will win.
I do too. I really do too. Well, thank you for your time, and I'm glad to see that you're wearing a mask and staying safe, and all of you guys stay safe out there and do your part. Do whatever you can to help the movement.
Thank you so much, Nina. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I'll see you guys soon. Mwah. Bye. Mwah.